Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast. We are so happy you have joined us today, and I think you will be too after the show is over, because you will learn a lot about fresh fruits and vegetables, how to select and store them, how to prepare and cook them, and surprising facts about their history and origin. We hope it inspires you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, not only for your health, but also for your delight and pleasure as you explore their amazing world of taste and delicious flavors. Eating more of them will transform your life in so many positive ways. So settle back, relax, and get ready for another delicious adventure with the Produce Buzzers. Greetings and welcome to another delicious episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast. I'm Edwin Stepp, your host and executive editor of ProduceBuzz.com. I'm joined once again by Teresa Nolan, the founder and president of Produce Buzz, along with Rick Stepp and Cynthia Benedetto, both contributing editors to Produce Buzz. Now, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, we've got another fascinating and informative guest with us today. She is a fellow podcaster who also promotes eating more fresh fruits and veggies, so we are especially delighted to welcome her to the show. Our guest works with an organization making a huge impact in getting people to eat healthier. That organization is the Healthy Family Project, and they are dedicated to creating a healthier generation through easy, fun, and inspiring content. All of their content is crafted with families in mind, showing them delicious, fun, and easy-to-make recipes, highlighting nutritional information, and providing tips to get the most out of their meal planning. Their website and social media are filled with informative and entertaining videos, blog posts, and, of course, great podcast episodes. The Healthy Family Project is not just about providing entertaining content, however. Since they began a little over a decade ago, they have helped to raise more than $8 million for charities devoted to feeding needy families, including Feeding America, among other charitable organizations. We are delighted to welcome Amanda Keefer to the podcast today, who has worked for the Healthy Family Project for over 12 years. Her career has always been in media and public relations, starting out at Westinghouse, and then working for some high-level companies in the travel industry, one of which is the ultimate travel company, NASA. In Cape Canaveral, Florida, Amanda served as a public relations manager for the Kennedy Space Center. Her office was just 3 miles from NASA's iconic launch pads. She played a pivotal role on the crisis management team during the Columbia shuttle disaster. But we think she is doing her most important work now at the Healthy Family Project. Her work aligns perfectly with her deep personal passion for making a meaningful impact and giving back to the community. Through Healthy Family Project, Amanda has helped create captivating content for families aiming to live healthier while leading impactful in-store campaigns with national grocery retailers. Welcome to the show, Amanda. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And I think I need to listen to that intro every morning. Like my alarm will ring and then I will hear that. And then I will say, yes, who are you talking about? Oh,
I can provide that to you, just $10 a month.
Okay.
Well, we're going to dive deep into the Healthy Family Project and your work there and your podcast. We want to hear a lot about that. But first, I want to hear a bit more about Amanda. We gave some basics about your life and career, but tell us a little bit more about you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And did you have any connections to the produce industry before coming to the Healthy Family Project?
So I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania. Go Steelers. And I feel like if I don't say that, there may be someone coming after me. So
right.
Yes. So grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania, pretty rural area. Did not grow up in produce, but definitely grew up in an area where my grandparents and my parents had gardens. You know, we'd be canning tomatoes to put into the canning cellar at the end of the summer months. And, you know, at that time you couldn't get produce the way we get it now, which is mostly year round for almost everything. And so, you know, we'd just be waiting for the strawberry festivals to kick off in June. because we could finally have the strawberries. So always, I think, just kind of in the mix of eating healthy and growing our own food and just fascinated by all of that. So yeah, didn't grow up in produce, but was introduced to it and loved it from the very beginning.
Yeah, you have you that love was instilled by your parents in the area you grew up in. That's kind of a mountainous area, isn't it? Little,
It is. And I live in Florida now, and I, when you live somewhere and you grow up somewhere, I drove these roads, and it didn't feel like a mountain. It didn't feel like I was going to fall over the edge of these roads.
right.
And now that I've lived in Florida for quite some time and it's so flat, and when I go home and I drive those roads, I think, oh my gosh, how did I do this? This is a complete incline, and I felt like it was just like a little bump back
Yeah,
then.
right. I understand what you're saying. Western North Carolina, where we grew up, is of course very mountainous as well. The Great Smoky Mountains here, Blue Ridge
Yeah.
Mountains. So it's similar. And I've spent a little, well, I haven't spent time, but I've traveled to the Pittsburgh area during my career a few times and driven some of those roads you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
It's a beautiful area, beautiful area. So,
Yes.
and I was a Steeler fan back in the day, Bradshaw and Franco Harris.
Oh yes. My dog is named Franco Harris.
Oh, that's great. I
One of my
remember
dogs.
I watched it live, the Immaculate Reception.
Yes.
I saw that live, and I think that's exactly when I became a Steeler fan. And then I was became a fan again this year because of Russell Wilson. He went to my alma mater, NC State.
Okay.
Before he went to Wisconsin, he was at NC State. So I've been following his career and hoping he does well. But anyway, so
Well, interesting fun fact, my husband is a Raiders fan.
oh,
So that's a touchy subject in the
oh,
house.
I bet.
And ultimately why when everybody wanted to get the dog and I said no, I said, wait a second. Can I name it Franco Harris? He's like, oh gosh, really? I'm like, yep, we can get the dog as long as you agree to name him Franco Harris.
Is he from California? Why would he be a Raiders
He
fan?
he is not. He spent time in the Marines in
Oh, okay.
California.
Yeah,
So he has growing up, he had an affinity for Marcus Allen,
right.
and so had always just been a Raiders fan. And then having spent time in California, then it kind of sealed the deal. So
Yeah, the Raiders are the team most people hate. I think
yes.
back
Were
in
you
those
married?
days where they played dirty. They haven't played
Yeah.
dirty. Okay, we went off track a bit there. Tell us more about Amanda. What else do you want to tell us about your background? And
So I I guess I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania. I did some great internships in Pittsburgh, and I was really just looking for a change of scenery. I did an internship over a summer with Disney. They had a Disney college program where you interviewed and could come and live for the summer. And I job shadowed their internal communications person. And I think that was the point where I thought, wait a second, I think PR might be the space for me where I can, I love writing, I love doing the journalism work, but this seems
yeah,
like something cool that I could get into.
right.
And so really after that, I decided after school, well, where could I go that I kind of have a feel for the location? And that's when I ended up getting the job at the Kennedy Space Center, working in their visitor complex. So really, in the initiative of bringing people and shedding the light on the space program and bringing tourists in so that, they could become educated on the history of the space program and just be,
Oh.
immersed in that, become lifelong space geeks.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That must have been really exciting for you. And
it
obviously, working for an agency like that, you really get a lot of exposure to highly professional people.
And that was really my goal was, and I will be honest, I was not a space, I didn't really have a lot of interest in the space program, but I did know that I knew public relations and I knew, you know, how to interview. So I said, you know what? I bet if I had NASA on my resume, I, I think I could pretty much go from here to where I want to do, what I want to do.
Yeah, right. That's right.
What I didn't have in my bingo card, which I guess maybe that was like maybe a little bit of karma, like, oh, you wanted to come and get this for your resume was, being faced with the Columbia shuttle disaster, which
Right.
was something that I just, as a first foray in public relations, public affairs, I will say it mentally, physically, all of the things, it was just something that I can't, it's incomparable to anything. And
Yeah.
often, my teams over the years, I guess, when we're facing a crisis, um, I often think back to that when I'm getting really worked up or I'm, oh my gosh, why are we doing this? What's this? And getting so stressed out. And I put myself back and I say, okay, no, this is
This
not
is, yeah,
stressful.
right. Yeah,
Bring it.
I can't imagine anything more stressful. A bigger crisis, you put the crisis in the
Yeah.
quote marks because comparatively, but a sad thing to go through. But those kind of things strengthen you, as you
Yeah.
just pointed out. So,
Yes, exactly.
congratulations on that.
I'm like, the older I get, the more I really do know that the hardest things that I went through were kind of the best things for me overall. In the moment, it's not fun, but looking back, it's like, wow, that really
Yeah.
formed me in a way that is, something that needed to happen or, however it
Right.
may be.
That's a great sentiment, a great thought. Thank you for sharing that because
Yeah.
that's very encouraging.
The only way out is through. That's what
Yeah,
I
that's a
say.
good point. Another great point. Okay, well, let's get to the Healthy Family Project.
Sure.
How did it get started? Who conceived the idea? When did it begin?
So, we are owned by Schumann Farms. So
Okay,
our founder is John Schumann. He
right.
is a Vidalia onion grower, and his idea came to be his son was his son, who's I think graduated from college at this point, but was being treated in a hospital in Atlanta as a toddler or an infant, and he learned about the Children's Miracle Network and the impact that the Children's Miracle Network has on families, going through the facing medical challenges. And so at that time, he thought, wouldn't it be cool to bring together some produce companies that I work with, and I want to say that the Southeast Produce Council was probably in its infancy at that time, and he had this network of people in other commodities, and thought, what if we could all come together and raise funds for Children's Miracle Network and make an impact as the produce industry, because there wasn't really anything at the time doing that in any way. And so Publix has always been a very strong supporter of Schumann Farms. And so he went to Publix and said, the Publix produce team, and said, what do you think if we did an in-store promotion where we feature these different produce partners? They're on a special buy or they're featured during this time frame. But as part of that, they're making a donation to the local Children's Miracle Network organization, hospitals. So it impacts the local community, really gives it a hyper local feel. So I mean, what he's pretty much the godfather, I guess you would say, of cause marketing. He just didn't know it at the time, and I still think that he probably wouldn't say, yeah, I invented cause marketing, but that's really what it was. And that's how we started, as a promotional campaign with inside the produce department. And if you know anything about promotional campaigns, which I know you do, they don't really have a shelf life that goes for 20
Usually not. That's
some
true.
years.
Yeah,
So we
very
have
unusual.
constantly reinvented um, the promotion and the program, and I really attribute it to, John's vision, and John having a team in place that really is innovative and creative and really runs with new ideas, and really able to be open to reinventing um, what we do. And we were Produce for Kids when we started out. It was Produce for Kids, and over the
Okay.
last couple of years, um, we rebranded into Healthy Family Project.
Oh, okay. I thought Healthy
Yeah.
Family Project was first. I was aware of Produce for Kids and wanted to talk about that a bit, but
Yeah, so I always say the artist formerly known as Produce for
oh,
Kids.
there we go.
Um, But we do still, well, which I know we'll get into, but we do still have Produce for Kids as our
Yeah,
retail arm of
got it.
our organization. So,
Just want to tell you, Teresa's very good friends with John. And I know him. He's such a nice guy. Every time I have a conversation with him, how did you meet John, and how did you ever work with John in your marketing, Teresa?
so
I think I met him through SEPC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Were
he's a
you on the
great guy.
board? You were on the board at SEPC at one point, or
I was on some of their committees.
committees? Okay,
Yeah.
right. Yes. Teresa's been a long time member of SEPC, probably from the beginning, and now she's a lifetime member. They made her a lifetime member, so she's
that's
got a lot of
awesome.
background with the SEPC.
Ah,
So anyway, well, that's very interesting. I knew that John was a backer of it. I didn't realize it was his idea. So
yes.
that's fascinating to learn, and I'm glad that's corrected in my mind. So it started as Produce for Kids, which I love that concept. We were going to talk about it. Maybe we should just jump right into that since you brought it up. Tell us more about Produce for Kids. I mean, it's pretty much does what it says, what the name says, I think.
Yeah.
But tell us more about it.
Yeah, so when it was several years ago now, maybe four, we, we're doing our annual meeting, brainstorming and planning for the coming year, and really are kind of looking at what everything that we do and felt like, you know, the Produce for Kids campaign, we do so much more than that campaign. And so, does it make sense for us to make that our retail campaign arm? We work with Publix, we work with Harps Food Stores, Coborn's. Does it make sense to keep that branding in store, keep that logo, and become Healthy Family Project, which was the name of the podcast?
Right.
So that was already kind of flourishing and resonating with people. And we saw that that was resonating and truly felt like, hey, let's do Healthy Family Project. We'll have Produce for Kids as our retail arm. And then we have several other brands. We have Mission for Nutrition, which is a program that is the audience is dietitians. It started as retail dietitians, but has since expanded to nutrition professionals in schools, in stores, private practice. We have our back to school program, and then we also, have the podcast as well. So, and we do something else called Food RX. So I look at it as like Healthy Family Project is our umbrella, and then we have these other kind of mini brands that branch off of Healthy Family Project.
Yeah. The nutritional information on your website is fantastic. Very helpful. Check that out, listeners. Let's get on the web address.
Oh, yes, healthyfamilyproject.com.
Okay.
Easy
All one,
peasy.
all one, no hyphens or underscores, just healthyfamilyproject.com.
That's it.
Right. And from there, you can get to the Produce for Kids. You may have a
Yeah.
separate URL for that. Probably do.
No, so we are the Healthy Family Project houses everything there. So all of our, recipes, all of our blog posts, you can link out to all of our social media there and learn more about our team and our dietitians. Also, everything's just all packed into that one URL.
Yeah. Okay, great. And there are some great recipes as well. Mentioned the nutrition information. The mission for nutrition is packed with info. The recipes are amazing. And then what they're doing on social media, I've primarily looked at Instagram. You guys got some great videos and posts there.
Yeah, we've been working hard to, we have an e-newsletter that goes out. We have a dietitian e-newsletter, but we have a consumer e-newsletter also that goes out weekly. So we've really been trying to match up all of our platforms in a way that, what you're seeing on Instagram, you are going to be getting in your email and you're going to be seeing on the website. So however you receive your information, we're trying to cover all of our bases and really make it consistent so that you recognize, you're in the safe space, as I
Right.
like to say.
Well, to get people to eat healthier, eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, like anything, if you want to get people repetition, frequency, you know that as a marketer and a communicator,
Yes.
It's about frequency and telling people over and over again to continue to remind them. That's kind of how what we felt we wanted to do here was keep it entertaining, fun, light, not like your mother, eat your vegetables and
Right.
preach to people. And you guys do that too and do a good job of that.
And so that's interesting that you say that because that's really what I have strived for at Healthy Family Project. I said, jokingly said safe space, but I truly want to be inclusive in a way that anyone coming to our website feels welcome there. I don't want someone to come to the website and see an ingredient that is, you know, crazy price off the wall. I love cashews, but we try to limit our cashew inclusion there. Um,
Saffron, no
yeah,
saffron in
yeah,
your dishes?
right. So for me, I always parent or caregiver thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm down a path, right? Like, how do I either like, what's my first step? Like, give me something easy that I can do, and don't make me feel bad about either the path I've been on that I want to change, or, if I have a fall off the wagon moment or things like that. Like, I just want, and that's when we first started, I said relatable, but
There you go.
really, yeah, that's really what it is. I
Right.
don't, because as a parent, I have felt those things, I have felt going to a website like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Or, I can imagine we're all in produce, but even you look at something and you're like, I don't know how to cut that. And if you're on a budget, which we all, these days really are, and, there are some, even less fortunate people who are really, counting their dollars in a way that's like, I can't afford to buy this and throw it away.
Right.
Like, I have a family that needs to eat. So even boiling it down to that, where it's like, okay, well, I've never seen this before. I don't know how to cut it. And it's, $5. What do
Yeah.
I do? So,
Teresa,
I'll
sounds like you
I'll
have a
have to
question.
tell you that I had a black bean recipe for black bean burgers. And I went to your website and looked at your recipe, and it helped me improve my recipe.
oh,
Your
great.
recipes are really good, and certainly those black bean burgers are, black beans are pretty inexpensive
Yes.
if you make them yourself, and which is not that difficult.
No,
So,
and that's great to hear. I'm so glad. I haven't made those in a while. Most of the things on the website, because I've been with the company for so long, my family has, I've either tested them in our kitchen, and you'll see my kids are sprinkled throughout the website over the years. It's hard to believe that, they've like
Yeah.
grown. Talk about growing up in produce, that they've grown up, really grown up in produce.
Well, I
So.
saw you have two daughters and you have the dog, at least one dog, Franco Harris. And I saw you have an African tortoise as well, but it sounds like you got a few guinea pigs to your recipe.
Yes, yes, that's for sure. And the tortoise is a big produce eater also, I
Oh
will
yeah.
say. I got to be careful. There are some things that he can't have, but
Uh,
he really enjoys oh, I have a bin
how big? Yeah.
on my counter that says tortoise food, and I'll throw my scraps in there. I'm like, forget composting. Get
Yeah.
yourself a tortoise.
How big is he? He? She?
I think so it's still up in the air, I guess, because I don't know, with African tortoises, you have to wait like a certain number of years until you can find out, I guess. But
Oh,
he
really?
is, I can't even lift him at this point.
Yeah, because
And
they can get pretty
oh,
big.
yeah, so I was gonna say he's probably around, I don't even know, but they do get really big. So he won't be able to stay with us because we have a not a large backyard, so he'll have to be rehomed. I've already had a couple of people with several acres tell me that they'd be willing
And
to.
they live a long time too, don't
He will far outlive me. Yes.
they? Interesting. That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have a little aquarium here in my hometown. It's actually pretty cool, but it's it's they don't have whales or sharks, but
Right.
actually they do have some small sharks. But they have several African tortoises there, and one of them is
Um,
huge. So anyway,
Are they going to get big like the ones on the Galapagos?
yes, they get I think they get to be 150 50 pounds, I want to say.
Oh,
They're getting really
Wow.
big. Yeah. So,
okay. Well, I got you off track again, but I was curious about that.
no, I love to talk about tortoise. He is quite the character. People crack up. When I go out, he hears my voice and he comes. They're like, I
Oh,
never
that's
saw a tortoise move that fast. I'm like, that's
uh,
because I usually bring him food. So when he hears my voice, he's running.
well, he's the greatest mascot for eating fruits and veggies too. So
He
there we
is
go. It
definitely, he
connects.
is.
What's his name? We have to.
So his name is Biggs. So
Biggs.
that was the name the kids gave him when he arrived. So
Oh, that's great. Okay, so listen, since we were talking about, I saw one review of your podcast that said it's so great. It's exactly what you were saying, that you don't put a guilt trip on anybody. You realize that you make mistakes and it's okay to make mistakes. And don't let that discourage you. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. I want to transition from that, though, into a question that I had kind of set up for later. Most people know that a diet rich in fruits and vegetables is crucial for better health. The concept of 5 a day fruits and vegetables is well known and has gained a lot of public awareness over the past decades. But yet, only about 12 to 15% of Americans eat the recommended daily allowance, the 5 a day. Why do you think that is, and what can be done to move the needle? I know you're doing your part as hard as you can, but we've had so many years of this. It seems like there's got to be a breakthrough.
yes, and I think that it's hard because there's not a lot of marketing do overall,
Right.
not a lot of marketing dollars
Yeah. Not
in the
compared to
world.
Coca-Cola and some other things.
Yes, exactly. Like you look at
Right.
some of these CPG brands and they really, you know, like you're saying there, it's a little easier for them, much easier, I should say.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times produce companies, of course, want to achieve distribution. So from my perspective, a lot of the marketing dollars go to B2B
Yeah.
in, bringing in the buyers and the produce teams to recognize the product, and then there's not much really left over to go
Right.
to the next stage. So I think that like what we're doing, making things easy for people, not intimidating, if that's something in the store or in apps that grocers can do to, highlight, push things to the forefront. I feel like every grocer has an app at this point, and
Yeah.
I know that many of the dietitians out there are moving into non-traditional roles, and I know that there are several involved in e-commerce at different grocers
Oh,
at this time. So I think that if we can recognize those nutrition professionals and move them into the non-traditional roles in the business of grocery, I think that that could really be impactful because they have a seat at the table making the decisions on, what to push to the forefront.
yeah.
So
No, that's a good point because that's the touch point.
if there's retail dietitians in stores, they have such a powerful position to drive sales, particularly in produce. And
Yeah.
so anytime I hear of, and I think because the retail dietitians oftentimes in the hierarchy of grocery, sometimes they're under pharmacy, sometimes they're under marketing, sometimes they're under, that they don't really, and because their roles don't often have a direct line to income.
Oh,
Um, to
right.
me, you could fix that really easy because I think that they have, like I said, have the power to drive sales across the
Right.
board of all health, like produce in particular, but health conscious brands, across the board. I think that they're a huge value. So again, I'm super passionate about the work that retail dietitians do. So I just keep pushing them back into the mix. Like, someone
Yeah.
please, please
Put
put
them
them
more
out
in the
there.
forefront. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those grocery stores I shop in, they have the background music, but every now and then they come on with some sort of promotional thing, and they have their dietitian coming on and giving tips over the loudspeaker. which is, um, kind of interesting to hear
Yeah.
that. So maybe other
That
stores are doing that.
that's especially good for those of us who every day at 4 o'clock are trying to figure out what we're going to
I
eat for
know.
dinner.
No, you hear that and it's like, put that Hot Pocket back.
Yes.
Yeah.
People love hacks. So, and people
Yeah,
love
sure.
to save money and not have to throw away their produce because that's like the thing where it's like, oh, eating healthy is expensive. Oh, I buy the produce and then I end up throwing it all away. So if there were these, touch points that said things like that, like here's how to make this last longer. I think that is just we don't have to overthink it. It can be as simple as that.
Okay, so now let's hear Amanda's tips for our listeners on how to eat healthier since we're talking about dietitians giving tips. Amanda's got some great tips, I'm sure. What would you start with?
So I think meal planning and meal prep is key. And I know those words can sometimes create anxiety with, parents and caregivers because it's just another thing on the to-do list that is already so long. Um, but I say if you plan one meal of your week and then see how that goes. And then maybe add another one once you feel, you know, good about what you're doing. I like to shop. I shop the BOGOs. I have a Publix down the street from me. So I actually do my meal plans around the BOGOs in the app
Buy
that,
one, get one free, just in case.
yeah, yep. So I will go in and say like, all right, what am I going to make for dinner next week? Oh, this is, tomatoes, and they often have produce in there too, which is great. So I try to plan out my meals that way, and I also try to take some time on Sunday or whenever I might have some free time to prep. So I'll chop up my onion, and I know people are like, oh, how long does it really take to chop an onion? I'm like, you would not believe when you are a busy working parent and you have to get kids to their next activity or you're in a meeting, that chopping of an onion is like could be a decision maker on like, do I throw in the frozen pizza or do I put, throw this together?
Right.
Um, because I've been there, so I know this. I love my slow cooker. My slow cooker is just, I mean, over the years, it's so amazing to be able to, and probably some people are like, oh, that's dated. Who uses a slow cooker? But I love to be able to put things in there either overnight or in the morning. And then also with people in my house coming in and out, doing all kinds of different activities at different times, that's a way, just click it to warm. And if we can't have family dinner tonight, like I've oftentimes, because, people are not paying attention and just like, what's to eat? So I've put a sign on the slow cooker, like, this is dinner. Get your dinner. It is inside of this slow cooker.
How many children do you have?
So I have two. One's off at college. He's home for spring break right now, but
Wow.
one off at college and then one in the house. She's in middle school. So, but they're both very helpful too. Right before I got on this call, which I should appreciate this as a mom win, my daughter, who's home, was trying to recreate one of the juices. So she went and bought the juice at Publix, and then she bought the items to recreate the juice. So right before I got on this call, she had me do a taste test because she does not want to pay for the juice when she goes back to school. It was okay because I paid for it today, but she
Yeah.
doesn't want to pay for the juice back at school. So she's looking for ways, how can I recreate this? Um, so that was a proud moment, even though I was rushing to get with you guys to chat.
What kind of juices was she making?
She was making it was mango pineapple with ginger, and I think it was turmeric she was adding to it as well. So
Sounds
yeah, it
good.
was it was it was delicious. We don't have a juicer, so it was like tasting a little thicker than, you know. But
Yeah.
she was like, "What do I need to do?" I'm like, "Listen, I am not I don't know. I don't even have a juicer, but this tastes really good. I was like, maybe just blend it a little more. I don't know. But
Yeah. Oh, that is a proud mom moment. That's great.
yes.
Yeah. So that's a great tip. How about, well, you've already kind of given us that. Time saving tips was one of my questions. And that's kind of what you're saying is uh, you use those spare moments to do the meal planning and prepare
Yeah.
ahead of time. That's going to help you
Yeah.
save that time. And the slow cooker is a great time saver. We did an episode a few weeks ago because it was, I think January is National Slow Cooking Month. Did you know that?
Oh, that's my month. I should be like the spokesperson for it next year.
So we talked about slow cooking. We gave the history of slow cooking going way back to the ancient times. And then we each gave our favorite slow cooker recipe.
Ah.
So anyway,
Yes, I
thought you
have
might.
my grandmother's, it's a Betty Crocker cookbook, like one of the original,
Oh, that's
versions
fantastic.
probably. I love old cookbooks. I like to go to flea markets and especially in my hometown because you could really find some gems. People have lived there for
Yeah.
families. Nobody leaves. I might be one of like 10 people that moved out of there. But yeah, I love old cookbooks.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to look
And
through.
most of those are very healthy, but there's a few of them. I saw one recently, and this is coming back. It was a Jello cookbook. All
So
these
cool.
different things you could put into gelatin, Jello molds with, and they're not just sweet things or, salmon and all kinds of. It kind of
Ah.
turned me away, but apparently there's this real trend for cooking with Jello is coming back.
Oh, I'll have to keep on top of that. Maybe we'll have to add
Uh,
something to the website or to our TikTok. That's probably a TikTok trend.
Yeah, somebody's going to
By,
come up with National Jello Month probably too.
by the way, Betty Crocker, when I worked at a publishing company right out of grad school, and Betty Crocker was the cookbook was one of my products. So I worked
Oh,
on that. And some of those cookbooks, they have all the basic things in them about what temperature to cook things at. And that is really helpful to somebody that's trying to navigate the kitchen as you were speaking.
so yes. So that's a really good point because that's another thing that I think is intimidating using different tools in the kitchen, like not knowing, and that's really forget about healthy eating for a minute, but with my kids, I wanted them to feel confident to be in the kitchen and know, like, oh, this is what this does, or this is the knife I would use for this, or, those types of things. So those cookbooks, those older cookbooks, you're right, really do walk you through those steps. And that's something missing in a lot of recipes online, I'm like, what's happening here? I feel like you guys left me hanging.
Do you
Okay,
know
we did.
that the Betty Crocker cookbook is still my wife's go-to cookbook? It's the one that Teresa gave us when we were married about
I'm gonna
45 years ago.
I'm gonna have to bring mine because I'm local here in Orlando. I'm gonna bring it to Southern Exposure just
That's
so
good.
Oh,
you can
yeah.
come and tell me if it's the
I
same.
have one too, so then we can see like, which one. Oh, I've got the original edition.
The first
Yeah.
edition
Yeah, the
signed.
first exactly.
Our second old cookbook is The Joy of Cooking.
Oh, that's the
Yes.
one I have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the go-to if you are trying to make something really sophisticated.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I don't have that. I know that needs to be I need to have that in my collection.
Okay,
Uh,
podcast episode topic idea. We're going to have to do a cookbook episode. But I want to get back to you and I want to hear more about your podcast because it is a wonderful podcast. You've been doing it for a while now. You've got a lot of great episodes there. Tell us more about that's called the Healthy Family Project podcast, right?
Which, like I said, was ironically that the podcast came before we changed our name.
Yeah.
But because when we started the podcast, I thought I I love produce, but I don't know that I'm going to have the average busy parent saying, "Oh, podcast about produce. Let me tune in." Like maybe someone that's interested or going down a path or, has a career or job in the space. But so I said, you know what? I want to talk about more than produce. Produce will obviously be a big feature, but I think I want to call it the Healthy Family Project because I feel like life is a project, like an ongoing project. For me, I'm always working to better myself, to better the world, carry all that weight on my shoulders every day. But
It's a
um
good weight to carry.
yeah, it's been good. So the podcast, that was my idea when we started it, and I am very passionate about shedding light on mental health and mental
Oh,
illness. I have my family, has had a history of mental health over the years, and unfortunately, some of that undiagnosed, just being that the time frame when, these things came about, it wasn't really recognized. I mean, I was a teenager in the late 90s, and even at that time, I don't know that there was any talk about, around mental health
those are
or
things you hid. You didn't talk about them,
yeah,
either amongst
exactly.
yourselves and your
Yes.
family.
And I think
Except in the South, where, to quote a line from Designing Women, we say,
designing women.
we we don't ask if you have someone in your family. We just ask which side is it on.
Exactly. Yes. I love that. I love it. So, yeah, so the podcast really, we talk a lot about food, we talk a lot about meal prep and meal planning and how it can be easy and how to make it easy. But many of our topics are around mental health,
Oh,
foods to eat, to reduce anxiety. It's all related. That's why I love on our Food RX, because you really are what you eat. And I mean, obviously there are things, I'm not anti-medication by any stretch, but like there are paths that you can take and try, that can really make a difference in your mental health, and not just you're lowering your cholesterol or whatever that might be. But a lot of those things lead back to mental health. When you
right.
do have high cholesterol, you are, pre-diabetic, all of those things, are um, your gut, has the highest number of your serotonin receptors, like the gut mind, um, you know, connection is so strong that when you can cure some of those things and take care of your gut health and take care of that, the mental health comes along with it.
Well,
So that's fascinating to me. And I just wanted to like shed a light on that and bring in some professionals. And I have a psychologist that I've talked to over the years. I have one of my favorite episodes, because I know we had kind of thrown that out there. What was your favorite episode? And I was thinking about that earlier today. And one really stuck out to me. He's a um, he's a psychologist for athletes, and
oh,
yes, so Villanova, he's their guy there, but he does do some other, consulting work or whatever it might be. But his name is Dr. Rick Neff, and he was also, in college in the late 90s and was a baseball player and had an issue pitching, and they kept trying to figure out what's the thing, what's going on, like what's the x-rays and this, and you're going to need a surgery. Well, it turned out it was all mental health. It was all something that needed to be addressed, that they never, so he found a passion in that. So after he left baseball, he thought, I want to work with student athletes and athletes to make sure that they're taking care of their mental health so that they can perform, in a way that is, they're not having to leave the sport, or that they're it's like going to the gym, mental fitness. They're
interesting.
taking their mind to the gym. And so he really, and my daughter, who's now in college, was a varsity tennis player, and our school is, I mean, I think ranked like number 15 in the country when it comes to tennis for a state champion. So it's a very
Wow.
intense. Tennis isn't a mentally hard, I play tennis, is a mentally hard sport to begin with, but then to put you in a very competitive space like that. And so while I was going through that with her and watching her deal with those things, I also, and you'll notice it's funny because on the podcast, I oftentimes found people to interview based off of things I was going through at the time. A lot of people on the podcast are people who are doing a job because of an experience they had. They're solving a problem, and that is just, to me, that's like your life's work, right? How are you making an impact when your time on this earth is done? And that, like, these examples of the people, that I've had on, been fortunate to have on the podcast, are truly their stories just continued to, the people just continued to have an experience when they shared their background and then be making a difference in what they do. So
And so now your daughter is the tennis player?
she's in college now. She does some intramurals, but she needed a little mental break from the
So she played collegiate tennis?
she played at the high school level, but our high school is super, we're down the street from the United States Tennis Association.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
most of the kids have been like born pretty much on the tennis court. So
Yeah, so it's not fair when like, yeah, I played it in high school, and you're thinking like, yeah, pop it in, but like,
no,
no, no, the
no.
kids in Florida and the kids in California, it's like baseball players too. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, they are in a league all of their own.
it is really intense. Yeah.
Cynthia's a big tennis fan and she plays. And
Oh,
I
I
I
played
love
used
at it.
I used to play when my knees could take it back in the day.
I
Well,
love
No,
that's
my
fascinating.
husband's a real tennis player. He just catches it when I frame it and spray it and like all that. So that's his jury duty.
The Healthy Family Project is not just for families. I've gotten a lot of great info out. I live by myself. I raised a family, but I'm past those years now. So don't think it's not for you because there's something for everybody on that site.
I agree. I think that that's like I said earlier, that's how we create our content. And, as our team has evolved too, when I started here, my oldest that's in college was 4 years old. So, um, you know, now we've evolved in the content. You see as we've had different people on our team, content has shifted as, people are going through different things in their life. So I think there's something for everybody on the site.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question on the gut health issue. Do you work fermented vegetables into the program?
Yes. So we want to do a bit more, but we do a lot, around kombucha, and we have a podcast all about kombucha. Is it safe for kids? There's like, some back and forth on that. So we definitely try to include all of that. We had our dietitian did a gut health food RX. So she talks all about you know incorporating those foods into your diet. So important.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we can't keep you all day. We would, but I know
It's
you've
so
got to
fun.
go.
I'm enjoying
I'm
this. I
glad you
love
are.
talking to you
I'm
guys.
glad you are. Well, I know you told me beforehand you have some exciting promotions coming up this in the next few weeks with the Healthy Family Project and Produce for Kids. Can you tell our listeners about that and where can they take advantage of them?
Yes. So right now we are kicking off Mission for Nutrition, which, if you are a dietitian or nutrition professional, you can sign up to receive a it's a physical kit. It's mailed to you, and it incorporates resources that you can use in store, in school, or in a private practice setting, at an event. So essentially, some of those education pieces that I talked about, a what's in season, how to buy at season's peak so you can save some money. So we are kicking that off. We have some great partners that are a part of that program too. So we're able to promote specific either commodity boards or brands that are part of that, and their items will be incorporated into those kits as well and featured on our website. So that's kicking off. We also have our Publix in-store program will be kicking off. Oh, I don't have the date in front of me. May-ish, around in May. So if you're a Publix shopper, you can keep an eye out for our signs in the produce department, and you'll be able to scan a QR code to take you straight to an easy recipe. So the sign will be in front of the produce brand that is a partner of our program. And then when you scan the QR code, it'll take you straight to the recipe so you
Great.
can kind of shop the recipe.
Will the signage be Healthy Family Project or Produce for Kids or both?
So in stores, you can look for Produce for Kids. And then it'll, like I said, have the QR code and an image of the either recipe or product or brand that's being featured. So that's kicking off. We have Harp's Food Stores will be kicking off April 1st. They're a great partner of ours, and you can find similarly those signs in Harp stores. Yeah,
What region does Harps cover? I kind of vaguely know, but maybe
so
it's not.
they're in Arkansas, Missouri area, and
Right.
we do our businesses with Associated Wholesale Grocers
Okay.
Springfield division. So
Right.
there's several banners that are a part of that, but Harps is the largest banner within that
Yeah.
network.
Yeah.
There.
The Associated Wholesalers supplies a lot of grocery stores all over the country, but I think but Springfield primarily the South Midwest, I think. But
Yes,
I
and
see.
they're great. They're, Associated Wholesale Grocers. We're also starting to work with the Gulf Coast division.
Okay.
And of course, I think, yeah, in Coburn's also, which is in the Minnesota area, is affiliated with the Associated Wholesale Grocers in that region. So
That's where Rick lives. Rick's in Minnesota.
ah, from a corporate
Yeah.
level, they do a lot. Associated Wholesale Grocers does a lot of giving back and impactful work out in their
Oh,
communities.
yeah. We didn't talk about too much about your fundraising and all of that. Do you want to give us a little bit in the little bit of time we have left on that? Because I think
Yes, I
that's
can I
important.
can certainly do that. So, I talked a little bit about Children's Miracle Network and how that started. So over the years, we have shifted to Feeding America because we are able to keep the funds for our retail campaigns hyper local. So for Publix, for instance, we have our total donation for the year, and then I work directly with the Feeding America corporate, and we break out the funds so that they hit every food bank in the Publix market area.
Hmm.
So the impact stays within, all of the shoppers that are, making a difference in supporting those brands in stores. Then those monies stay within, bettering their communities at the food banks that are part of the Feeding America network. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah, I love that we're able, one of our pillars is really keeping things local. There's a lot of great charities and organizations out there, but the impact that we are always looking for, especially with retail, is impact in the shoppers'
Yeah,
communities
and the
directly.
shoppers can get a lot real satisfaction in knowing that the dollars they're
Yeah.
spending are going local to help the local
Yes.
community. So
Yeah.
that's
So
fantastic.
yeah, so that's and we have two big, I mentioned Mission for Nutrition in our back to school. We do work with the Foundation for Fresh Produce.
All right.
And so what we've been working with them on for the past couple years is funding the K through 12 um, nutrition education. And so what those donations go towards is really connecting the school level food service people with the produce brands, bringing the education to the food service, nutrition people that are at the school level and doing that work at the school level. And so I work closely with them to ensure that those donations are making that happen, because those relationships, with the produce companies and the school sometimes gets tricky with guidelines and, whatever it might be. You have to have things prepackaged, you have to have them cut a certain way. And so really forging those relationships and looking for the spaces where that can happen.
Fantastic. Okay, well, this has been fascinating, and you've given us so much information and inspired us, which is what we love to do. I know you've inspired our listeners as well, but we're going to let you go, but you can't go yet.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, this is one of those
Yeah.
things I'm not prepared
We-
for.
We have a ritual here on the Produce Buzzers podcast, and it's very painful. We make our guests go through it, but it's very painful.
Oh geez. Okay.
So I hope you're ready. So
Wanna
here's the
try
deal. Here's the deal. Teresa loves puns. And every podcast episode, she brings a pun to tell us. And they are so bad that all we can do is groan. And we call this segment Home Grown. So what happens is Teresa will give us the pun. It's usually in the form of a question. And we try to guess what the punny answer would be.
Okay.
But then, of course, the pain comes from when she actually reveals what it is, and it's so bad. So it's painful, but, not physically. Just
Okay. All right. let's do
Okay.
it.
So, Teresa, do you have a homegrown for us today?
I do. And I just have to say, Amanda, when I was doing those black bean burgers, I switched out the breadcrumbs for some rice, from brown rice, and put in some corn. And that made me think of a little question I had. And it was, what did the baby corn ask the mama corn?
Okay. Give us a second here. I'll repeat it. So, because she was using corn instead of breadcrumbs, she thought about the baby corn. So, what did the baby corn ask the mama corn? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So, let's try to think of something. Rick, you're always usually pretty quick on these. What do you got?
I don't know. Something about shucks popped into my mind, but it's not connected.
I was thinking stock, like something stock, but I don't know.
Are you stalking me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That's what my kids say.
Cynthia, come on.
That's why what? What'd she say? That's why what?
That's what my kids ask me. Are you stalking me? Yes, I
That's
am.
funny. That's good. Come on, Cynthia, you got one.
Yeah, nothing.
Only thing I was thinking something about Papa. Where's Papa? No, Papa corn. Where's Papa corn?
Where is popcorn? You got
Oh,
That's the
good.
second
job.
time anyone has gotten
I
it.
know it.
I rarely get them. I'm
That
so
was so
slow.
good. Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah, don't be. We're supposed to groan. but- All right, sorry to put you through that,
That was
but
fun.
was such a wonderful time today. Thank you for taking the time. I hope we didn't keep you too long,
No,
and I hope we can have you back again sometime.
certainly. I'd love that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Produce Buzzers podcast, brought to you by Produce Buzz, the gathering place for lovers of fresh fruits and veggies. We hope you were entertained a bit and educated a lot about fresh produce. Be sure to join us next time, and please tell your friends to do so as well. Like, share, and comment on our Produce Buzz Facebook page, and check out our website at www.producebuzz.com. There you will find articles about fresh fruits and veggies, how to select, store, and prepare them, as well as lots of interesting facts about all the wonderful bounty the earth provides for us. Until next time, be fruitful and don't forget to veg out.